The Cannon Fire Podcast is powered by PewterReport.com. Make sure you go check them out if you haven't already. That's PewterReport.com. Plenty of great stories by great people about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Your number one source and official partner of the Cannon Fire Podcast, PewterReport.com.
To start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here?
15 seconds left, ready to go. The snap. Winston looking. Fade route, far sideline. It is caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Touchdown, Chris Godwin. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Bucs lead. Fire them cannons. Bucs take the lead late with 9 seconds left.
Here on the Cannon Fire Podcast, we normally like to open up the show with a joke, something regarding the past week in Bucs news, something that's relevant to make you laugh, but today, unfortunately, is not an episode where we can do that. Today, we faced one of the biggest tragedies this nation has seen, and something that we've seen far too often, if we're being quite frank here. Today, in southern Florida, a school shooting occurred, and last I checked, at least 17 fatalities in that school shooting in Parkland, Florida. Right now, we're going to take a moment of silence here at the beginning of the show, and it's rough. But let's take a moment of silence for all those, the families, all those affected in Parkland, Florida here today. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Cannon Fire Podcast, episode 22 here on YouTube and iTunes, powered by Pewter Report. Glad to say that now. Speaking of big news, guys, if you hadn't heard already, Bucs football, Mr. Evan, right here, was able to strike a deal with one of the best sources in Bucs news on the internet, anywhere, really. That is Pewter Report. So now, since, Evan is Mr. Bucs football, the Cannon Fire Podcast is kind of in that love triangle. So now it's a really cool partnership thing we've got going on. Evan, if you want to jump into a little more in depth and tell the people what's going on, man. Exciting news.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot. This is something that came up shortly after the season had ended. It was something that I was approached about, and we talked for a little while, and we were able to work out something. So basically, what's going to be happening is you're going to be seeing me talk about Pewter Report a bit more. They do great articles there. Trevor Sigma comes out with his Cover 3 every week. Scott Reynolds comes out with his Fat 5. Mark Cook comes out with his Pewter Report mailbag. And you'll be seeing me advertise those, along with getting fans to just discuss, on my page, to discuss what was said in their articles. We thought that we wanted the fan interaction to be bigger, and we think that this is going to boost both Pewter Report and my page in turn. You're going to be seeing some of my stuff every now and then on PewterReport.com and in their podcast, which is the Pewter Nation podcast. So very exciting stuff. There's some more stuff that could possibly happen, but I can't really reveal that now, and it won't be for a couple months anyway. So, but other than that, I'm very excited to announce it, and very excited to start it.
Big things happening here in the culture of the fan for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of good things happening, man, lately. The guys at What the Buck, they have their tailgate every year, and everything that's happened the past couple of years, I've noticed that a lot of fan service being done by the fans more than anything. We don't raise ticket prices on you like some people, but those people shall not be named. But anyways, guys, let's get into some Bucs football. It's been slow. We got to be quite frank and honest with you. It has been a slow couple of weeks in Bucs football. We do have a couple of highlights to talk about that occurred over the past week or so. And one of the biggest things we're going to jump into right off the bat is free agency. Everybody's talking about it. Not a lot has been done but you're starting to see the trades shape up, and we should be in room for some pretty big things happening around the league. But let's talk about free agency and the Bucs really quick. Let's start with something realistic. We're not going to start with Le'Veon Bell because I know a lot of people like that discussion. Let's start with something that maybe we could wrap our heads around first. Because if Le'Veon Bell flew into Tampa and that deal was made, if you told me a week from now that deal was made, I would call you a liar. But I don't know. The NFL is a crazy place. Anyways, let's talk about the Bucs and free agency. Something we had talked about a little bit earlier, at least that I had seen in the group chat that we were in. Mike Glennon. Word's going around that he's going to be released from the Bears and the Bucs, a very real possibility. Like you said, if the money is right, what could happen there, potentially? Mike Glennon coming back to Tampa.
Well, this is just a hunch of mine, and just, what I've heard from Kirk Cousins over the past 3 years, that Mike Glennon was Kirk Cousins' backup. Did they love him there? And it just so happened that, Mike got his chance to start in Chicago, and you can't blame him. But especially since, Jason Light loves him, or else he wouldn't have offered him $8 million to stay, which would have made him one of the highest paid backups, in the NFL. And now that he's expected to be cut after a not-so-good season, and the Bucs need a backup quarterback, possibly, with Ryan Fitzpatrick maybe retiring, maybe coming back, maybe he's being a free agent, and then the uncertainty of Ryan Griffin because he has not yet played an NFL snap. I think the Bucs could look to Mike Glennon, who is a familiar face. He knows the system. I don't think he'd be too expensive. I think he likes Tampa, and like I said, Dirk Cutter, James Winston, Jason Light, they all love him there. And I think, with this suspension possibly looming over James Winston, we haven't heard a single thing about it. With it possibly, maybe he gets slapped with a 4-game suspension. Are you going to throw Ryan Griffin out there? No, I would hope not. Maybe you throw Ryan Fitzpatrick out there, who did decent last year. He did a good job. He did his job, but I think they'd be much comfortable with Mike Glennon. Now, if Glennon's asking for, like $8 million and Fitzpatrick's asking for $3, the Bucs are going to re-sign Fitzpatrick. But if the money's similar, if they're both asking for $4 a year or so, I think they would choose Mike Glennon.
Now, you had brought up Ryan Fitzpatrick. Obviously he's the guy who can get the job done. He won a couple of games for us this past season. But something we got to think about, man. Fitz is getting a little old. He's getting kind of up there, getting some gray hair in the beard. Do you think Fitzmagic, say the deal with Glennon doesn't happen, do you think Fitzmagic stays another season and for whatever reason, if we needed him, he'd be able to produce? And if the deal isn't done, you think he'd retire, or you think he'd go for one last ride and get another team?
I think the Bucs like Fitzpatrick, and I think it's mostly because of what he did in that 3-game stretch versus the Jets, versus the Dolphins, and then versus the Falcons. He went 2-1 during that time, and yes, the Jets and Dolphins weren't very good opponents, but he did what he needed to do. Not many turnovers, made some smart plays, and that's not what Ryan Fitzpatrick's known for. So I think he definitely thrives in the backup role, and I think the Bucs definitely know that. So they want him; they would like him back. That's what I do know. Whether he decides to retire or not, I don't think he will. But I think ultimately the backup quarterback for the Bucs is going to be either Ryan Fitzpatrick or Mike Glennon. Maybe I think it's a possibility they bring in they sign Fitzpatrick to another 1-year deal and have him compete with Ryan Griffin again. That's a real possibility as well. So you never really know. But I do know that they have confidence in Fitzpatrick if he needed to go in.
And speaking of Ryan Griffin, man, he's always been a guy that I liked. If we got to sit here and be honest. See him and Ryan Fitzpatrick compete again. I'd really like to see Ryan Griffin get a little more reps in this season. Obviously, last season, he was injured in the preseason, wasn't able to play for pretty much all season. I don't think he got a single snap in the regular season.
Nope.
Preseason came out, looked pretty good, and I've come to like him. It could be because of Hard Knocks. You know, he did have a little more of a highlight on the show. But I think he's just always been a solid guy who's never been given a true college try. You know what I mean? I don't think he's ever been in a situation where he's under pressure and it's time to prove himself. I'd like to see him try at least once. I'm not saying give him the start week 1, obviously, but you know, the way things pan out, you never know what could happen.
That's what the Bucs may have to do, though. They may have to turn to their backup quarterback week 1 because quarterback Jameis Winston may very well not be available. And, you know, I think that's a case where you may see if Jameis Winston is suspended by the NFL for, let's say, 4 games or so, you may see Jameis Winston play in the 4th preseason game. Just because it would be almost, I mean, because after the preseason, you take a week off and then there's the regular season opener. It would be almost 6 weeks, and maybe even a bye week. And then it would be 7 weeks until when Jameis Winston would be throwing a football again. I don't think the Bucs want that. I think if they know that a suspension is coming, if it's been already said that it's a 4-game suspension, 5-game suspension, whatever, I think the minimum he's going to get is 4 if he gets anything. The maximum is probably 6. But it could be a while, and I think, you know, it is a risk, but I think they need to have Jameis possibly playing that 4th preseason game if they know a suspension is happening. You know, you talk about Griffin getting the old college try. I mean, they've tried to develop in the past 3 seasons or so. He's been the 3rd quarterback, I believe, 3 seasons. I believe this is going to be his 4th season with the team. You know, it's been bad luck. It just hasn't worked out. But also, I mean, you know, he's behind Mike Glennon. And Mike Glennon was always really the backup. Like, everybody knew he was pretty much the backup. And then, you know, he gets behind Ryan Fitzpatrick and gets the chance to compete, does decent, and then gets injured. You know, and who knows what Ryan Griffin would have done in the rest of the preseason. Because, honestly, Griffin looked better in the preseason than Fitzpatrick. But as we know, Fitzpatrick did very well in the regular season. It was a pretty good switch. He turned the switch in the regular season.
Oh yeah.
He turned it on because in the preseason and in training camp, he did not look good. He didn't look interested in playing football, and Ryan Griffin was out there just busting his balls and just trying to get himself to get to where he wants to be. And unfortunate injury, so I think he'll get a shot no matter who the backup quarterback that he bring in, whether it's Patrick Glennon. He'll get his shot, but I don't know if the Bucs want a guy with 0 NFL regular season experience starting week 1 in a season that's very important for the futures of Dirk Cutter and Jason Light.
Oh, yeah. Very well put. Now, taking a look back at free agency, as we brought up Mike Glennon, a possibility, but another possibility and something we've seen looming. Former Tampa Bay Buccaneers, definitely the spotlight this offseason. LeGarrette Blount just won a Super Bowl, so I'm going to be honest with you. I highly doubt he's going to go anywhere, but he did win a Super Bowl 2 years ago with the Patriots, and he was gone a couple of weeks later. Let's talk about this really quick. You've got Aqib Talib and Michael Bennett, really the 2 front runners for that position. Like I said, LeGarrette Blount, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. Michael Bennett and Aqib Talib. Last I had seen, the Broncos were out shopping Aqib Talib and, was it Michael Crabtree, I believe?
It was Emmanuel Sanders.
Emmanuel Sanders, there it is. My bad. I'm tired, buddy. They were shopping Aqib Talib. Really didn't get very much interest for him. It's still looking like things might add up and he could get cut and head into free agency. But the last I had read, the Broncos had been shopping around Aqib Talib, not gaining much interest. Michael Bennett, really haven't heard too much about him in the free agency race, but again, a very real possibility. If you got to bring one of those guys back, if not both. How about this? How are you feeling about this whole situation? Do you bring those guys back and give them one more shot? Do you bring any of them back? Do you just forget it? I mean, how are you feeling? I know they are both getting a little up there in age.
Well, I mean, you know, and just to add to a point, as you know, as some of the people know, I do live in Philly. I live near Philly, at least, and you know, it's a Super Bowl thing. It's been horrible, but
I was gonna pray for you. We should have had an extra moment of silence for you at the beginning of the show. How's that going, by the way, up there with the Super Bowl championship atmosphere? Is it a different town, or is it same old shit?
It's not good. Well, if you're a Bucs fan, it's not good. You know, so But I watch a lot of Eagles games, watch them throughout the playoffs, watch the Super Bowl, and I can tell you, I think LeGarrette Blount's going to go.
Really?
Corey Clement stepped up in the Super Bowl, and I just think that LeGarrette Blount is going to be the odd man out in that backfield. So I think all three of them are going to be free agents. Now, do I think the Bucs pursue any of them? Probably not Blount. I think they want to get younger at running back, not older, because LeGarrette Blount's older than Doug Martin is. So I don't think they want to go older. But Michael Bennett is a possibility. He hasn't been cut yet, so you can't say for sure that he's going to get signed or he's going to sign with anybody, because he's still a member of the Seahawks right now. It's a possibility he stays. It's a possibility he gets cut. I think it's almost a certainty Aqib Talib gets cut. I think Talib's a good player, but he is getting up there in age. If I were to sign one of them or both of them, or maybe all three, I'd sign them to 1-year deals, maybe 2-year deals, 2 years at most. And I'd load all the money into the first year. And then I would have either a team option in the second year or something like that, and a bunch of incentives. Because, these guys, yes, they had great careers and stuff, but they're towards the end of their careers. Let's be real. They only got probably 2-3 more productive years left. And, all three are positions of need and would definitely help the Bucs. Michael Bennett would definitely be an upgrade over any Bucs defensive end they had last year. And Aqib Talib would be an upgrade over... I don't really want to say Brent Grimes, because I think Grimes and Talib are about on the same level now. If you would ask me that 2 years ago, I probably would have said Talib's better, but I think now they're probably on the same level. But Aqib Talib is definitely better than Ryan Smith, Vernon Hargraves, Robert McClain. So is it a possibility? Yes. Do I think it happens? They got to get cut first for me to really have an opinion first. I do think Talib gets cut. I do think Blount walks in free agency. I don't know about Bennett.
I got you, man. So I see the way you're looking at it. These guys, like you said, it hasn't happened yet, but these guys get cut, Bucs pick them up. It's a short-term solution. They are positions of need. These guys are getting a little older. But here's a question, and something we can talk about really quick. More specifically regarding Aqib Talib, you look at the guy in the cornerback position. I would say he's been a solid top 10 corner at least the past couple of years. You look at Aqib Talib and you look at a guy like Brent Grimes. Brent Grimes is someone that, honestly, when we picked him up, I didn't expect him to come in and contribute nearly enough as he has been. The guy deserves to be paid, and if he wants to play one more year, I am all for it, because he is that talented. You don't think Aqib Talib, with his talent, could come in and perform like that for a couple of years?
I do.
It definitely wouldn't be a Darrelle Revis situation. Let's be honest here.
No, but I do think that it's tough, because everybody's body is different. Brent Grimes' body, it seems like he's going to play forever, Brent Grimes doesn't seem to slow down. Talib,
because he's on the TB12 diet plan. He just drinks 3 glasses of water a day.
Apparently Miko cooks him a lot of good stuff. That's what in his opening press conference in free agency when he came to the Bucs, he said, somebody asked him, "You're 33 years old." He was 33 at the time or whatever, and they said, how you keep doing this? He said, "Well, first thing is eating good, and my wife makes this and that." So. But everybody's body's different, so I can't say that Aqib Talib would come in and have the same production as Brent Grimes, because Aqib Talib and Brent Grimes, they're two different guys. Do I think Talib would be all right? Yeah, definitely, and he would be an upgrade over anybody that they had last year besides Grimes. But I can't, I don't think the Bucs can bank on. You can hope, but you can't bank on Aqib Talib being the next Brent Grimes. You
can't put all your chips in one pile, because
no,
like you brought up, these guys, it's a harsh truth, but these guys, they are old.
Yeah, just because, okay, let's say you re-sign Brent Grimes and then you sign Aqib Talib, just because you did that does not mean you don't get another corner at all. I would sign I would re-sign Brent Grimes, and if you sign Aqib Talib, I'm not saying I would, I'm not saying I wouldn't, but if you do, I'd look to sign either a young guy that's been lost in the shuffle, like T.J. Carey from the Raiders, I really like. Aaron Colvin from the Jaguars, I really like them two guys. I like Kendall Fuller, and I like or Kyle Fuller, excuse me, and I like can't remember his name really. Crap, it'll get to me then. But also in the draft, you can't ignore it in the draft. So if you do sign Talib, you have to either add one more guy through free agency or through the draft. You can't just ignore it and just hope that that's good enough, because it can't be good enough. And here's the Pewter Report plug. Scott Reynolds put out a Fab Five a few weeks ago. It said Light must assume the worst. And it said Jason Light must assume this and that. Jason Light must assume this. It was like Jason Light must assume that Gerald McCoy will never reach, never get over 6 sacks again. He must assume that James Winston will never hit Deshaun Jackson deep. He must assume that the Bucs kicking problems will never be solved, and that's how you got to go into the offseason. Because if you assume, oh yeah, they're going to be fine, you're not going to do anything about it. So if you assume, oh man, this is horrible and this is our need, you're going to go hard after it. So I think it's a really important part. But back to the subject. It's tough. It's a real luck. It's a real roll of the dice with Aqib Talib, and as it was with Brent Grimes.
I got you. Now, we're going to kind of wrap up free agency talks here. We have some more Bucs news to close out the show, but let's tackle one more big discussion floating around the free agency pool. And it's something that I think we need to put a stop to, and it's something that I am seeing too much of. It's something that I'm sure you're seeing too much of. And it's just a ridiculous, boneheaded... It's one of the dumbest things that I've seen come out of the Bucs fan base in a while. With all due respect. I love all the fans of the Bucs. Everybody loves everybody, because right now the Bucs suck, and Bucs fans, we're all we got. But let's take a step back and look at this for a minute, and I hope some of you guys who are on this train realize just how dumb you sound. The point I'm trying to make is that Kirk Cousins is not going to come to Tampa. I just don't see the need. I don't see why you would push that much money into someone who has starting ability when you already have a starting quarterback. If Jameis gets the suspension and he's out 4 or 5 games, it'd be nice to have Kirk Cousins there for 4 or 5 games until your franchise quarterback comes off and Kirk Cousins sits on the bench, and then ESPN wonders what the hell's going on with Kirk Cousins in Tampa. It's a stupid idea, and I don't know if you feel the same way. I hope you feel the same way, and if you don't, maybe you can talk some sense into me. But I think Kirk Cousins to Tampa is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard, and I really just want to shut that shit down.
Oh yeah, that's not going to happen. There's no chance that happens.
The craziest part is that you see it everywhere. I see it 3 or 4 times a day, whether it's on Facebook, on Instagram, and I gotta be honest with you, Facebook Bucs fans are a different breed.
Oh,
it's a wasteland out there, man. I don't know what's going on, but I see it a couple of times a day.
It's basically all the 45-year-olds that are just, just pounding away on the computer screen. So
there's some good people on there.
Yeah.
Don't let me sit here and just trash Facebook Bucs fans. But if you guys are listening to the show and you'll know what I'm talking about. Derek from What the Buck, if you're on here, you know what I'm talking about. Brent Allen from the Pewtercast, if you're on here, you'll know what I'm talking about, man. It is a cesspool of crime and villainy.
Yeah, but back to the subject. Dirk Cousins, Dirk Cutter, Dirk Cousins. Maybe that is a fit. Who knows? Kirk Cousins is not coming to Tampa, no matter how much fans want it. Even though I haven't seen as much as you. I have seen some. I'm not gonna lie, but he's just not. You're right. It would be nice to to have Kirk Cousins for the first 4 or 5, 6 games if Jameis Winston would get slapped with a suspension. The only problem is Kirk Cousins is not going to be coming to Tampa Bay for $5 million a year. He's going to be coming to Tampa Bay for $25 million a year. So, that's pointless. When you have a franchise quarterback that you need to pay, it would be probably be the stupidest move the Bucs would ever make, unless, and I'm not trying to stir the pot, this isn't a rumor at all, this isn't what I'm suggesting, but unless, if they sign Cousins, they're trading Winston. They're doing something with Winston if they sign Cousins. It won't happen, but I'm just saying the only way that they would sign Kirk Cousins is if something is seriously up in that organization. They don't believe Jameis Winston's the guy. That's the only way they sign Kirk Cousins. And then you could get a lot for Jameis Winston. I ain't gonna lie, but I would still prefer Jameis Winston over Kirk Cousins anyway. So, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Cousins here because he beat us that one time.
Oh yeah, well,
I just really don't want him shouting. You like that through the locker room?
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of be better after the Bucs, come back from a 24-point lead against the Redskins. I'm just saying, but Red, you gotta stop holding grudges, man. But anyway, yeah, it's not gonna happen, guys. For all you hope, and I'm really sorry. But it's not going to happen. There's more of a chance the Bucs go out and sign Le'Veon Bell, Tremaine Johnson, Michael Bennett, Sheldon Richardson, Ziggy Ansah, and then trade up to draft Bradley Chubb and then trade back into the first. Yeah, a lot more things are possible. Honestly, it's more likely. I'll say this: it's more likely that Mike Evans walks in free agency next year than Kirk Cousins signs with Tampa Bay.
Yikes.
He's not. Mike Evans isn't going to walk, but it's more likely.
I like to believe that as well, and I keep saying to myself, the NFL is a crazy place. I think one of the first experiences that I had where I was following football, and I had just gotten into football, maybe like a year and a half, 2 years before. The first big shake-up experience that I had that I did not see coming, and I don't think a lot of people saw it coming at the time. You remember when the Bucs just cleaned house? Derek Brooks, gone. Mike Allstott from injury, but still, Mike Allstott, gone. All the veterans on the roster, gone. It was a crazy time. And that was the first time I really was able to say, wow, anything can happen. And I think that's when I first realized that you've mentioned this before, and not a lot of people like to think of it like this, but the NFL, whether we like it or not, is a business. The game of football is a business, and business has to happen, and a lot of times there isn't things we can do about it. But that's free agency.
There's things you're gonna like. There's things you're gonna like. Things you're gonna not. At the end of the day, you gotta think. This is, you have to think about the player. You go to work every day, right? We all go to school. We all go to school. It's their job. This is their job. Your job is whatever. My job is whatever. Your father's job's whatever. My father's job's whatever. Their job is to play football. If you were, everybody says, "Oh, why'd you leave, man? You're a snake for doing that." The Kevin Durant situation, that's different. The Thunder.
Yeah, I was about to say you can't try and excuse KD from what happened there.
No, I'm not because
fake Twitter
because
accounts
the Thunder were almost as good, if not better, than the Warriors, and they're offering the same amount of money. Yeah, no. But I'm just saying, if Le'Veon Bell would leave, everybody, I saw a couple in the group chat, man, he'd be a snake for that if he'd leave Pittsburgh. No, he wouldn't. If honestly,
more money.
Rhett, Rhett, if whatever you work, let's say you make, I don't know, but let's say you make $15 an hour. If some other company, okay, you wish you made $15 an hour. It sounds like
almost there.
If some other company came in and say, hey, guess what? You can work You can work the same hours and everything, but we'll pay you $20 an hour. You take it.
Oh, yeah.
You do, because you have a family, you have, you have a house. In the player's case, you have a very nice house, you have a very nice car. You have to, you have to do what you have to do, and I don't fault any player for going out and signing a free agency, unless it's like a Kevin Durant move. Then that's ridiculous.
Do you think we have a Kevin Durant in the NFL?
No, not necessarily, because one player isn't going to make or break a championship, in my opinion.
That's true.
Because the NFL is 22 starters. If 24 if you want to include special teams, and the NBA is 5. So I think it's much easier to build a team and win. And if you get one player in the NBA, you'll be instantly good, rather than if you get one great player in the NFL, you might be better, but you won't be instantly like that much better.
I know this is a Bucs podcast, but guys, if you're not watching the NBA, now is the time. I mean, we're getting closer.
Sixers, baby.
We're getting closer and closer to the playoffs. Everything's shaping up. You've got your leaders. You've got your losers. And I mean, let's talk about the Cavs real quick, okay? The explosion that was
Wait
the
a minute,
shakedown.
Red. This is a Bucs podcast. What are you talking about?
Let's not talk about the Cavs for a minute, but let's just highlight what's going on.
Let's just talk about the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
Let's just talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. For the rest of the time.
We won't talk about the Cavs, but I am going to ask you this. And if you guys are listening, whether it's on YouTube, iTunes, whatever, YouTube or iTunes, because that's really the only place you can find us right now.
Oh,
wink, wink.
Soon, though.
Wink, wink. But if you guys are listening right now, here is the question I'm going to pose to you, and then we're going to talk about one more point and probably close out the show. Do you think LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to make it to the finals this year?
No.
No?
I don't. I think the Celtics are probably going to end up there. I said right after the Kyrie Irving Isaiah Thomas trade.
Oh, yeah.
I said that the Warriors were going to beat the Celtics in 5 games to win a title. So, I think the Celtics and the Cavs will both be. I think they'll both be in the Eastern Conference Final. But I think the Celtics will end up beating the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Final, and then end up losing to the Warriors. Just what I think.
Okay. We'll see what happens. You guys, if you're listening, make sure you leave some feedback. Let us know. And if there's anything else from the show that you do want to talk about, make sure you comment below, and we'll make sure we can touch on those points the best we can. Now,
unless it's like Olympic curling, then
yeah.
we don't.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really been watching the Winter Olympics. I know. I know that
I watched the summer
really been
ones,
kicking
so.
ass in the snowboarding division, though.
Yeah, Shaun White, man.
Shaun White, and what was the name of that
incredible.
little?
Chloe Kim.
Chloe Kim. I heard she was
the
kicking some ass as
17-year-old.
well.
Yeah, definitely.
So
go USA.
Let's get back to the Bucs here. It's going to be the last thing we talk about before we do close out the show, as previously mentioned. Some bigger Bucs news over the past week. The Buccaneers finally making some moves on the coaching roster. Defensive line coach Jay Hayes has been fired. And if you did not know, the Bucs finished with 22 sacks last year, the last in the NFL. 4 sacks. Jay Hayes obviously not doing his job. If you're going to start, find the problem and fix it, and that's what they're trying to do here. Now, really quick, man, I got to say, the Bucs have always had a thing for firing coaches really late at night. I mean, Jay Hayes, he got fired at, 1:32 in the morning? That's when I had first found out.
Pewter Report had broken that story, and I got the text around. I was in bed, probably around 12:40 or so.
Yeah.
So I had to get up. I had to get up, make a graphic for the page, and then post it. I was like, oh my god. Well, but apparently Hayes knew, and everybody else in the office knew that he was fired last week. They just didn't announce. They didn't let anyone know. Like, nobody knew until Saturday night late.
So Hayes knew as well.
Hayes knew, but yeah, it wasn't leaked until a week after.
Wow, must have been a shitty week if you're Jay Hayes. Let's be honest here, man. Must have been the longest week of your life. Speaking of longest week of your life, Doug Martin. The Bucs did announce that they are not going to be moving forward with Doug Martin next season, and now they have a decision to make. A roster cut's kind of coming up here. It's going to happen. Don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. Doug Martin not going to be here, man.
Well, it's not really a surprise, but it is going to be different. That's for
the
sure.
thing. Is like you said, it's not a surprise. I'm not super sad that he's leaving. I know hopefully he can go to another team and do some good and finish out his NFL career. He still has a lot of life left. But it's going to be weird because whether we like it or not, he's been on the Buc roster longer than, like, if you really think about it, he's kind of been here for a while. You know, he's really settled in. You go to the games, you see a lot of Doug Martin jerseys. I've met the guy a couple of times. He's a cool guy to talk to.
You have a
He's
picture
really
with
little. He's really small. What were you saying?
You have a picture with him, don't you?
Yeah, I had a picture with him, and I got him to sign it with his finger. It was on Snapchat. But it's going to be weird not having him here. Obviously, he couldn't produce, but I don't know.
Yeah.
If he gets another job anywhere else, it's going to be really, really funny to see him in another NFL uniform.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been cut yet, but, everyone expects it, unless something very unexpected happens. I mean, very. Everyone's
third leg.
Pretty, yeah. I mean, then I think you should give him a shot. But I mean, why not? I don't see why not. He all of a sudden, goes
a third leg. I think he really deserves a shot if you're able to go through that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I think Doug Martin. He's a good guy. I think he's a good guy regardless. But maybe if he had the Hawks' power and like Flash's speed, I think we might be on to something. But I hope he goes to a team and does well, just not well against the Bucs. I hope, because he's been one of my favorite players. Excuse me, one of my favorite players, and it's tough. It really is. I mean, he hasn't been cut yet. It's not official, but pretty much. Pewter Report, who has a pretty good pulse, probably the best pulse of any Bucs reporters, are saying they're expected to move on, and the Bucs are also they're expected to be in the free agent market for running back, also in the draft. But we'll catch on that probably in the next episode. But Doug Martin, it is going to be weird. It definitely is, because I mean he's been with the team since 2012, so. I mean, he's been here 6 years, so when you know somebody for 6 years and you've seen him, you've watched the press conferences, you've seen him, 16 times in the fall, or maybe even more than that, preseason wise and stuff, and it is going to be weird, definitely.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the last thing we talk about. It's not going to be super long. If you hadn't noticed, the episode that we recorded last with Captain Jack was before the Super Bowl, and Captain Jack actually did say that Philly has a really good chance, if anyone, to beat the Pats, and that's exactly what they did, and that's the farthest I'm going to go into the subject, because Philly won the Super Bowl, and Philly sucks. I hate the Eagles. Philly doesn't suck, but I just, anyone but the Eagles. Jesus Christ. I mean, I really wouldn't have minded the Pats, because you see them there all the time. It's a routine. It's like, all right, the Pats are in the Super Bowl. Let's get this done. Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time. You can't sit here and try and say anyone else is at this point. They went in there and they lost against the Eagles. That doesn't really tarnish any of their legacies. You look at Bill Belichick as a coach, still has 7 rings, still doing his thing, and I really think he's going to come back next year and be hungry to get one more, because
I think, they're going to the Super Bowl again next year.
I think they will, too. And here's the thing, though. If they go to the Super Bowl next year, I think he's going to retire, because Josh McDaniels had to come back for a reason.
Yep. And, if Belichick retires, Brady retires, too. So I think this will both be their last years.
But Philly won the Super Bowl. Yuck. And that's the way it is. So hopefully the Bucs can win the Super Bowl next year. We'll have something better to talk about a year from now. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you catched us on YouTube or iTunes, let us know. Leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Costs you nothing and makes us very happy. Also promotes the page. If you're on YouTube, leave a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and leave a comment below like we said before. Comment on some of the points we talked about during the show, and we will make sure we can get back to you on the next episode or Instagram or whatever it is. Speaking of Instagram, if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram at Cannon Fire Podcast. And last but not least, go check out pewterreport.com, the official partner of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Great things going on over there. Trevor Sikkema, Mark Cook, great people over there. All guys we've had on the show before. We got to get, oh my God.
Scott Reynolds.
We got to get Scott Reynolds on the show. We need to get the trifecta. You know,
maybe have all three. So we just
I was
have
about
all
to say
five
that.
of
Maybe
them.
have them
So
all
it
three. It'll
doesn't-
definitely be an open table discussion. It'll be cool. You know what? Let's see if we can make that happen. You're definitely the communications guy with them. So maybe pitch the idea, see if anyone does want to come on, and then we'll go from there. But as previously stated, ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Remember that Philly sucks and the Bucs do not. Have a great rest of your week. Go Bucs.